It may sound strange to some, but Advent is my favorite liturgical season. That's because it's a time that allows us to acknowledge the restlessness of what it is to be human. The Advent season is a time of waiting, a time of anticipation, a time of longing, basically a time in which we affirm that a big part of our human journey is to, at times, feel unfulfilled and sit in that restlessness. And I think if there has been any time in recent history that has made us encounter the restlessness of the human heart, the uncertainties of daily life, the unpredictability of the world around us, it has been this last year of 2020. So on one hand, as Catholics, we can rejoice that we're beginning a new year a little earlier than the rest of the world, and maybe that will usher in something new. But it's also a time in which we can reflect sincerely on all that has been and where we are now. In the Gospel for this Sunday, Jesus reminds us to be watchful, to stay alert. We do not know when he is coming. And indeed, this Advent season is a time where we're reminded not only in our preparation for Christmas, but a time in which we are called to prepare ourselves for Christ's second coming. But the whole idea of being watchful, of staying alert, is a recognition that there is a significance in the time leading up to the fulfillment for which we hope. That there is meaning in what we do now. That there is a purpose to that sense of being unfulfilled, of longing, of desiring, of wanting, and yet feeling like nothing is quite as it should be yet. That's something that the Jewish people understood well in their journeys in the Old Testament. In Isaiah, we hear that very clearly. As he says, "You, Lord, are our Father, our Redeemer. You are named forever. Why do you let us wander, O Lord, from your ways, and harden our hearts so that we fear you not? Return for the sake of your servants, the tribes of your heritage. Oh, that you would rend the heavens and come down, with the mountains quaking before you." Isaiah speaks so clearly of this sense of having lost the tangible reality of God in his midst. And yet he trusts so profoundly in what God had done to inform him of what God would do. The reading closes with Isaiah recognizing that, "O Lord, you are our Father, that we are the clay and you the potter. We are all the work of your hands." In all the trials that we face in our daily lives, we recognize that those are opportunities for God to shape us. Not that God wishes us to suffer or sends difficulty for the sake of our discomfort, but that the trials that we face in life, the difficulties we encounter, that they form us, they shape us, and they prepare us for something new. This Advent season is a wonderful time for us to reflect upon that. And the tradition is that the first week of Advent we focus on the notion of hope. And hope is a remarkable sort of virtue because as it is forward-looking towards something that has yet to be, it also is rooted in what has been. Advent is a time where we're not only acknowledging our preparation for the celebration of Christmas and the incarnation of Christ. It's not only a time in which we are anticipating the fullness of Christ's kingdom in his second coming, but there's a third coming of Christ that we also acknowledge and celebrate in the Advent season. And that's the abiding truth of Christ in our midst, here and now. See, we can anticipate and hope in his coming because we know he already has come. He already has been born. He already has acted in his ministry, calling his disciples, giving his life, rising from the dead. Salvation has already been won. And so while we trust in all that God will do because we know what God has done, we're called to also recognize that we have never truly been left or abandoned. It's easy to lose sight of where God is moving in the messiness of the world because we like clarity of signs and symbols. We like to be able to point to things that speak without ambiguity. But in reality, if we're honest with the way that we often encounter God, we know that it's usually in the mundane, in the ordinary, in the small, in the simple, in the quiet things of life. And Advent, as we sit in the winter darkness, as we light one more candle each day, hoping that the world feels a little brighter, those are times where we recognize that in that waiting, God is still there with us. He's abiding with us in the sacraments. He's abiding with us in our families. And indeed, He's abiding with us even in the difficulties and trials and hardships we face. 2020 has given us plenty of those to reflect upon. But I think one of the greatest gifts of these struggles of these past many months has been a clarity of heart. It's challenged us to recognize our priorities, where our time and energy should be invested, where we see goodness and truth and beauty and love. When we can see that with clarity, sometimes because of its absence, then we know where the light is burning. We know where our gaze should be. We know where our watching shall look. So as we embark upon this Advent season, let us cherish the significance of what it is to wait, to watch, to long for, and to yearn. Because that emptiness we sometimes feel is an indication of the truth that we have known. And it's an opportunity for us to trust and hope in the presence of our God here and now, and where He will lead us in the world to come.